The reason why I kept this is because that moment, after that moment, actually at that particular moment, it was a very, very traumatic time for me. Right at that time, 4 years ago. I've been clean about 5 years at that time, but then I met the man that I was with that night, and it was a very abusive relationship, and a lot of things has gone on because of that man. But what that showed me is that even after someone that started a charity and perpetuating to be the solution to addiction, doing well in my studies of masters in the field of alcohol, tobacco and drug studies, that anyone can fall into the clutches of methamphetamine addiction again. I thought that was all behind me, everything was good, but then I met that guy and it started again. So how that story ended is I've put him in rehab, went and put a domestic violence order on him, and what I learned in that experience is that any person, no matter what demographics, no matter where they come from, can go through a domestic violence issue. And how do I know this? Because I've been liaising with police and people from the domestic violence shelters around Queensland. I'm doing my doctorate now on polydrug use issues, how coaching, so it's coaching with substance, so how coaching can arrest the problem of addiction issues. And when I've been talking to the domestic violence shelters, they tell me that they have about 8,000 calls a month. Okay, so in any given day, they get a couple of 300 calls, and then out of that, about 100 or so they put in motel rooms so that people can be safe and not be beat up and all sorts of things that happen within domestic violence. And also, there's only 46 shelters in the whole of Queensland. So somehow, with this great deficit of demand for people, I mean, the Rotary is doing such a great job outside of our city, but can you believe that the Gold Coast is the highest rate of child notifications? And thank goodness not very many people know what child notification is, but that means pedophile cases, all right? Southport Magistrate Court has the highest number in the whole of Australia. That's why, and I can go on about statistics, but it'll probably make you all want to boo me, so I won't. But let's just put it this way, I have first-hand experience of all of these statistics. And back then, the reason why it was such a monumental moment, because in July 4, I was very much in denial. Yes, I wasn't doing methamphetamine, coke, ecstasy, but I was drinking a lot and I was smoking cigarettes. So that still is not stopped in the scheme of what sobriety means, what abstinence means. And I was representative of what alcohol use is in our country at the moment. In 2015, they did a study. So just fresh study, national, the Drug and Alcohol Survey, and they found that 84% of Australians over 14 drink alcohol. Queensland has the second highest level of harmful drinking, where 1 in 5 that drink alcohol drink at the most binge, at the highest level of harm, right? So we've all heard of one king hit punch, that type of behaviors. I mean, all these behaviors are real, and our courts are fraught with it, and domestic violence is a big issue, as we've seen with the Gold Coast, with a lot of cases with murder and things with domestic violence. And all of this is the fruit of chronic addiction. And the rate of chronic addiction at the moment is, so with alcohol use in 2008, they spent altogether $56 billion was spent in 1 year on prevention, treatment, hospitalization, death tolls, insurance, everything to do with arresting the problem, arresting, preventing, treating the problem of alcohol, tobacco, and drug use. So the number one killer is tobacco use, because it's legal. Number one killer back in 2008, it still is now. Number two is alcohol use, where they spend $15 billion in arresting the problems of alcohol. And with tobacco, it's $26 billion in 1 year. The Heart Foundation talks about the heart problem, which is a big problem, and probably 90% of that is attributable to drug and alcohol use and prescription use. But that for a heart problem is $7 billion in 1 year. It's $56 billion for alcohol, tobacco, and drug use in 1 year. All right, so I'm not here to tell you an untruth or to scare you. I'm here to tell you the reality of what's happening to our society right now. And the reason why I shared my story is because in 2014, when I came here and talked, you know, I was under the influence of methamphetamine use because of this man that was injecting me with that. And it was just a 1 month thing prior to that, and long story, but now he is well, and he's been in rehab, and he's actually one of the supervisors for that. I haven't talked to him since, but that just really opened me up, because prior to that I haven't really had any domestic violence kind of issues. And then it really woke me up with my own story of what am I in denial of. And that's when this book was born. Kill Your Addiction Before It Kills You. How I Transformed My Life with Addictions, Bipolar and Suicide. And my story is 10 years in and out of psychiatric institutions. And it started when I was, my meth use, first time meth use was 13 years old. And I came to Australia when I was 11 by myself from the Philippines. And that's why I've got a picture of the Philippine flag here. So you might think, oh my God, this is the story of the 250,000 meth users in this country. We're on 0.8% meth use at the moment. So it's alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, prescription drugs, and then, you know, all the rest, cocaine, speed, and then heroin and methamphetamine use. So let me tell you now, meth use. One person on meth use can take down 15 people because they've got superpowers. How do I know? Because I was one of them. You know, in my first hospitalization, I took down 4 police people with guns and everything. And when I came to, and I've got all of the records from the hospital, when I came to, my face